In a beachside resort town of Gulf Shores, Alabama, inhabitants have frequently referred to a strange feature in the terrain as Indian dish. As early as the 1820s, a few antiquarians and United States Army engineers identified it as a feature that predated white settlers, but it lacked scholarly attention to explain its origin and functions. But Harry King, a local who had been exploring the back bays of the area, became interested in the ruins of this massive trench, which was roughly 30 feet wide and 3 feet deep. During trips to the Archaeology Museum at the University of South Alabama in Mobile, King would encourage researchers to investigate this area. Grigory Wasserkoff, a retired anthropologist at the university, believed the ditch was built by enslaved laborers during the antebellum period. He was initially reluctant to visit the place and have a look, but according to him, there are lots of reasons why you might have big ditches. Features like that could be created from logging and from rice cultivation. But when I saw this one, I realized it was something different, he said. The team was able to prove that this long overlooked trench is an architectural marvel and unique archaeological find. The nearly 1 mile long canal was created for canoe transport about 1,400 years ago by Native Americans who traversed the region's waterways. In a report published in the Journal of Field Archaeology, the researchers outlined how the canal would have connected the Gulf of Mexico with more protected bays, improving access between coastal fishing areas and trade routes to the rest of the Southeast. According to Victor Thompson, director of the Laboratory of Archaeology at the University of Georgia, one of the things that this discovery underscores is the incredibly engineered landscape that exists among the native people of the Gulf Coast. They were able to engineer this landscape that allowed them to flourish for millennia. He continued, "The archaeology is so fantastic in this region. It has such an interesting history, and it speaks to the sophistication and ingenuity of indigenous societies in the Southeast who have contemporary descendant communities. But even though much of the canal has since been destroyed through construction, it previously stretched a little less than a mile across the majority of the Fort Morgan Peninsula from Oyster Bay in the north to Little Lagoon in the south. Both bodies of water are at sea level, but the land between them rises up to 6 feet in height. That means anyone digging a trench across the peninsula risks emptying the water table into the sea level outlet. The remedy in this situation may have been 2 dams at either end of the corridor, requiring canoeists to ferry their boats around. Dugout canoes with their shallow draft would have required just a few inches of water to get through the 3-foot deep canal. The experts also believe the canal was only passable during the winter, when seasonal factors often resulted in wetter conditions and a higher water table. But even when the canal was dry, Wasserkoff believed it would have formed an excellent walkway across a densely wooded area. The team excavated 2 cross-sections of the canal. Radiocarbon dating allowed them to locate the structure between 576 and 650 CE, around the end of the Middle Woodland era. Archaeologists in the Southeast use the term woodland period to refer to cultural phase in which pottery became widely used and settlements were structured into tiny hamlets that occasionally erected mounds. Much more evidence suggests that Plash Island, a small middle woodland town located approximately 1.5 miles north of one end of the canal, was likely responsible for the waterway's construction. Rather than circumnavigating the 19-mile peninsula through the high surf, residents of this settlement might have used the canal to get to camps closer to the Gulf, where they processed, smoked and dried fish and shellfish for better preservation. The Native Americans who lived in this area at the time did not practice agriculture. Therefore, access to sustenance supplies of fish and forage plants was critical. Hence, the canal would have greatly aided traffic since long-distance travel was also common during the Middle Woodland period. Stones, shells and other items were traded throughout the eastern half of the North America, and this canal would have served as a convenient shortcut between the Florida coast, Mobile Bay and beyond. Researchers believe this canal is basically the front door to the southeast for trade goods from the eastern shore of the Gulf and from the west coast of Florida. Though archaeologists know that what was essentially a highway system of natural waterways and footpaths stretched across the southeast, not many indigenous canals are known in the region. At Pine Island in southwest Florida, a 2.5-mile canal was built for canoe travel perhaps as many as 1,000 years ago by the Calusha, who established a kingdom fueled by fisheries that resisted Spanish colonization. At Mount Key, the Calusha built a shorter sea-level canal along with water court for trapping fishes. These canals are much more different from irrigation canals built by indigenous peoples of the Americas, such as the ones built by the Hocoham culture in Arizona and northern Mexico. But what makes the canal in Alabama especially unusual is its age. It emerged prior to all these large polities or organized states that popped up later on. This is an indication of a more organized and collective type of labor project at the time. Scholars previously assumed the culture would need strong hierarchies to harness the type of labor needed for large-scale engineering projects. Interestingly, the earliest evidence of stratified chiefdoms in this part of the southeast date to around 1000 CE, with the beginning of the Mississippian period. Researchers typically look for disparities in graves and housings to find evidence of social hierarchies. But according to Wasselkoff, little archaeological work has been done on woodland sites in the Mobile region, but among the known remains, there does not appear to be a chiefly elite who would have directed large construction projects. But more recently, some archaeologists have come to the conclusion that a rigorously hierarchical and agrarian society was not required for complexity or even city building. According to Marquardt, hierarchies would not have precluded Native Americans from trading shell items, beads, and other things over large distances 1,400 years ago in the eastern United States. He said, "We see trade and commerce today as something that makes people rich or aggrandized in some fashion, but that might not necessarily have been the case in the past. Maybe it had a different kind of worth, a ritual or ceremonial value. So, whatever it was, having these items and being able to move them about was seen to be attractive and beneficial." Marquardt complemented the report's thorough examination of the hydrological parameters that would have made the canal practical. He thinks the result would motivate other archaeologists to investigate comparable characteristics in the southeast. So, what is your thought on this? Please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Ancient Insight, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.